webinar. And we try to explore different perspectives on climate solutions for our communities. And sorry, Lori, I forgot to say we were starting. We come to you from the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx and Similkameen nations. Our communities, the wildlife, the waters, the lands of the Okanagan, we benefit tremendously from the work of the Okanagan Nation Alliance, the work they're doing in restoring the land and river. Recent projects have focused on fish, but you may not be aware, we're focusing on vineyards today, but the Osuyas Indian Band community planted one of the earliest vineyards in the South Okanagan in 1968. Planting over 200 acres of vinifera grapes. So they are really in the forefront of pioneers of vineyard management. The Okanagan Valley is home to many species of endangered wildlife, like the western rattlesnake. You're going to see a picture of it. The OIB community and Inkameet Vineyard staff have been working with biologists for over 20 years to be able to maintain the vineyards, but also keeping snakes and vineyard workers safe. So here's a photo of a training session they've sponsored in Inkameet Vineyards, showing vineyard workers how to safely move snakes. So sustainability and sustainable practices has been around for a long time, but we're certainly looking forward to learning more about it. I'm going to turn things over now to Sue Kirschman to introduce tonight's speaker.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Tonight's topic is close to my heart, as my family has a vineyard and farm, and we've been affected by the changing climate, as many of you probably have. In 2024, we had no grapes or apricots or peaches because of the deep freeze in the winter. And in other years, we've had crop losses because of late spring or early fall frosts. As the weather becomes more and more unpredictable and new pests move in, growing has become increasingly challenging. And this is one of the things we worry about at First Things First. Excuse me. How we're going to grow crops into the future. While we can adapt to a warming climate to some degree with more sustainable growing techniques and even changing what we grow where, it can become a never-ending chase unless we also reduce emissions. The effects of climate change will continue to get worse until we stop spewing greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. And I know that sounds a bit dire, but the good news is that many adaptations are also climate solutions. And for example, in farming, when we use techniques that improve plant resiliency, we're helping to sequester carbon, and fewer herbicides and pesticides are needed, which avoids the emissions that would be created by producing and delivering those inputs. So mitigation and adaptation, and often cost savings, are all rolled into one. Benoit Gauthier is the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Winemaking and Viticulture at Noble Ridge Vineyard and Winery in Okanagan Falls. Over many years, Benoit has developed a thorough understanding of the soils and microclimates found in Noble Ridge's vineyards, and he's worked to implement a number of sustainable techniques. Before I turn it over to Benoit, just a reminder to ensure your audio is turned off so there's no background noise. And if you have questions for him, just type them into the chat and we will ask him them afterwards. So with that, I will turn it over to you now, Benoit. Thanks, and please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sue. So I'm going to start with sharing my presentation with you guys. And let me know if it works. Can you see it?
Yes, it's there.
Excellent.
Not in the play mode yet, but it's there. Yep.
Excellent. I will move as it goes along. So first of all, thank you everybody for joining tonight. It's very nice to be able to talk about what I do, and I hope you get inspired and share the information with people around you. And I would also like to apologize for delaying this presentation. I was the cause last week of the delay, so I did spend some time in Montreal, so I was attending a climate change conference in viticulture called Tasting Climate Change, where Michel Bouffard organized 3 days of information sharing. So she brought in speakers from all around the world to talk about the techniques and the tools they use in their countries in viticulture to mitigate climate change. So it was very nice to hear different perspective on how things are done around the world and giving me some insights in, what's going to happen here maybe in the future. So I've learned quite a bit and it was very interesting. So it was worth the trip, but sorry for being late. So I was caught. My plane got canceled, and I was coming in late. So I apologize for that. So today, yeah, my presentation, like so introduced, I'm going to talk about what I've done in the vineyard to really improve the conditions of my vineyard, and mainly what I've done to my soil to make my vineyard a lot more resilient to climate change. Maybe to start with, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background on who we are as Noble Ridge. So, Jim and Leslie here on the picture, they founded Noble Ridge in 2001. So they bought a plot of land in Okanagan Falls. On that plot of land, there was already 3 acres planted. There was 2 acres of Merlot and an acre of Cabernet Sauvignon. And among the oldest grown in the valley for Cab Sauv. They're 40 years old vines, so very old vines for the valley. It's a pretty young valley. And then from there, they planted every year a little bit more grapes to grow to now 25 acres. It's a small family winery, which is why I love being there because we share the same values of quality, of people, and of sustainability. So, through my presentation, I'm gonna kind of bring you to my journey at Noble Ridge. So for me, I joined Noble Ridge in 2011, early in my winemaking and viticulture career. So I actually moved in the valley here in 2007 to study viticulture and winemaking. And then I worked in a few wineries before joining Noble Ridge. And in my humble beginnings, I was, at Noble Ridge, really going into the vineyard. So I was, kind of when I got there, I followed the principles that were passed on to me by the previous manager. So in 2011, I was farming very conventionally, like most people did back then. So use of herbicides, use of synthetic fertilizer. Why? Because it's cheap, it's easy, and it kind of does the trick. So I really had, the mentality of let's get the job done, quick, fast, cheap, and then make some good wine. Um, but then after a few years, it really clicked on to me that I was not doing anything that was benefiting my vines or my soil or the environment in general. So it took actually me 3 years to realize that, hey, it's about time that I change my practices because I quickly realized that every time I had issues with irrigation, my vines would get stressed right away. So they would feel the water stress, the leaves would turning yellow like within a week or two. And it just made me realize that, you know what, I need to spend a lot more time and a lot more energy to make my vines resilient. So I need to start working on my soil. So in 2014, that's when I started including a lot more compost in the vineyard and organic fertilizer. So through my fertigation system, which is my watering system, I have drip irrigation. So through my drip irrigation, I can include some fish fertilizer and seaweed um, fertilizer that really helps to increase a little bit more nutrients in the soil, but also helps with the microorganism in the soil. So from that time, I really started putting a lot more time and energy into making my soil better. So the pros of that is by increasing organic matter in the soil, it does two things. It actually help retain water in your soil, and it helps to retain a little bit more nutrients too. So for me, like to give you a bit of background on my soil, Okanagan Falls was kind of back in the days I formed when the glaciers were covering the valley. Glaciers were traveling south, and they all got stuck on McIntyre Bluff. But they kept pushing, so they kind of dug in the ground, lots of big pots and kettles that forms the landscaping around OK Falls. So it's pretty unique topography that we have in OK Falls. But then the glaciers really grinded the soil to not much. So basically, it's like grounded rocks. So my soil is mainly gravel, pebbles, and sand. So there's very little organic matter. So basically, there's not a lot of food in the soil to start with. So for vine growing, it's good because I can really control my vine vigor, but it's not good because it doesn't really retain much water and nutrients. So I need to water a lot more. I need to put more fertilizer for my vines to be healthy. So I needed to do something. So that's why by increasing the organic matter in my soil, I started like you making my soil a little bit healthier and making my vine happier. And then going along in 2017, I tried different things. So I really like to experiment. So my background before going into winemaking is chemistry. So I really like science and really like to experiment and see the result of my experiments. So in 2017, I did some experiment with compost tea and cowhorn manure, so preparation 500. So with the compost tea, basically, the guy that was working in the vineyard with me was really interested in developing a compost tea technique. So he bought the equipment and he was brewing his own tea. So basically, he's taking compost and mixing compost with warming up and oxygenating and adding a little bit of humic acid and other components to create. I make sure that it's alive and try to increase the microbiology count within the tea. And so I use that tea to spray foliar to feed the vines and on the ground to increase the microbial activity in the ground. And I also use the preparation 500 to on the ground to increase the microbial content. So one of the interesting things about, a soil that is alive is microbes really help vines to actually intake more nutrients. So this is kind of beneficial phenomenon that happens that sometimes you got nutrients in the soil that are not being able to be absorbed by the vine because the root system cannot absorb them in some forms. So the microbes make the nutrients available. So basically it means that in your soil you don't need more nutrients to feed your vine. It just needs to be available, and the microbes will help you do that. So by working on your soil, you actually make your soil more efficient. So then I need to put less nutrients in the soil. So it's very effective and very great. But it takes time, it takes money. So everything that you do, it's an investment in in time and money, but it's an investment that pays very well. But the one thing I realized too that through this time, I was still from the beginning using herbicides, which it took me a long time to realize that what am I doing? Like I'm trying to put compost on the soil, try to increase the organic matter, and I'm killing all the weeds that are growing under the vines. So starting in 2021, I decided to totally stop any use of herbicides and grow a cover crop. So with my goal is really to increase the organic matter. So why not, plant something that would actually benefit my soil, both in decompaction, nitrogen fixing, but also bring some organic matter. So I planted a nice mix of lentil, flax, I think mustard, a veg here. I got some teff, I got some radishes and some turnips. It was a nice mix under the vines that really helped. Two things. The first thing that I wanted was definitely have some greeneries that would help me enrich my soil. So basically, I would grow the cover crop, and then at the end of the year, I would use a grape hoe, which is a blade that kind of goes under the root system of the weeds and the cover crop, and then turn it around under the vine. So it kind of composts itself. So it really adds a lot of good organic matter from the vegetative state of the cover crop. But growing a cover crop, the other advantage of it is in the summertime when it's really hot, it keeps the soil a little bit more cool, so you get less evaporation. So if you have less evaporation, you need to water a little bit less. So it really went hand in hand with me trying to water my vineyard a little bit less and save some water. The cons, like every time you do something, try to work on your vineyard, it costs a little bit of money, a little bit of time, but for me, it was worth all the benefits. Uh, and then in 2025, I wanted to do even more to my vineyard. So last year, what I did is I installed some moisture probes in my vineyard. So I have a little bit some different soil in my vineyard. So I installed three different probes to really tell me the moisture content in my soil. So I've been farming since 2008 in the vineyard. So it's 18 years. And so I got really good knowledge of viticulture, really good knowledge of especially the land in OK Falls. I've been there almost since the beginning. But still, I'm farming, I was farming kind of the old way with visual cues and knowledge and experience. But I really wanted to improve my knowledge of my soil composition. So you see on the graph here, the moisture in my soil, these probes, they go 80 centimeters down in the ground, and they allow me to understand the depth of the moisture in the ground, and then the water level that if I need to water or not. So on the graph right here, you see the red band at the bottom. This is the point where the soil moisture is too low, and it's the point where it's a stress point where the vine are going to be stressed. So having that information live whenever I want, it really helps me program my water cycle so that I can always be slightly above, the stress point of the vine, but never too high. So I really able to manage and really pinpoint in each of my blocks how much water I need to give my vines. And this amount of water will change through the year because in the spring it's a bit cooler. It gets really hot in the summertime and it cools down in the fall. And during the vine development, the vine is going to need different amount of waters too. So this really helped me to actually save water at the end because I use just the right amount of water that I need for each vine. So to do that, it was a little bit of a capital cost, but once the system is installed, it's really benefiting me in, saving water. So all of the things I've done for the past 10 to 14 years, uh, what is it for? It's really for building soil health and building vine resiliency. And at the beginning, I was like, maybe it's a luxury, I'm doing all these things and do we really get a return? But, with climate change, I don't think it's a luxury anymore. I think it's really a necessity. And if I extrapolate, where we were 10 years ago to today and try to see, extrapolate to in 10 years, I'm really glad that I started working on my soil health because climate change is really affecting the vineyard quite intensely, and it takes time to build your soil and your vineyard health. So I'm gonna just try to explain for you who maybe are not super accustomed to viticulture and just the impact of climate change in viticulture in general. To start with, so probably you guys remember 2021 when we had the lovely heat dome and heat wave that came into the Okanagan, if you guys are from here. I think in the vineyard I hit 45 for a few days in a row. That really affected the vines. So in terms of heat, if a vineyard gets hot in temperatures above 30 degrees, it's already not so good for the grapes, not in terms of depth, but in terms of quality. So if you reach temperature of 35, 38 degrees, actually your grapes, when they mature, they're gonna lose some natural acidity. They might lose some flavors and some colors. So it will reduce the quality of of the wine that you're gonna make from it. And if the heat persists, then you get a lot of water stress in your vines. So you get decreased yields, the middle picture. So the grapes will desiccate, and you will have a loss of crop. And if the heat persists for a long time, your leaf actually are gonna fry up. They're gonna turn brown, they're gonna die, and you might even lose the whole vine. Um, so there's something you can do to mitigate a little bit heat stress, and it's really working on your soil because the vine will protect yourself a little bit with evaporation. So the leaves, when the leaves evaporate water, it cools down the canopy. But at one point, if your soil is not rich enough and it's lacking water a little bit, the vine won't, like the evaporation will stop because the vine won't have enough water to evaporate, and then it's going to close its stomachs on the leaves. So once there's no more evaporation, then the temperature of the canopy is going to go much higher, and that's where it's very dangerous to get some permanent damage to the vines. So having a good soil will mitigate a little bit the heat waves and heat domes, but at the same time, there's a lot more things that we need to do to prevent these kind of things to happen. Forest fires, the new the new regular world. It seems that we have forest fires every year now. Luckily, in 2025, we didn't have any fires until I think September, and we had only a few days of smoke, yeah, I think in the valley around where I was. But there's not much I can do to prevent that in the vineyard. The only thing I can do is kind of mitigate the effect of smoke. So, as you guys probably know, uh, when there's forest fires and lots of smoke in a vineyard, it will affect the wine. So basically, the vine's going to absorb the chemical compounds uh, of the fire, and it will translocate them into the grapes in the skin. And then when you make the wine, your wine's going to taste like ashtray or campfire, which is not very, very good. So there's some new technology that's going to help, let's say, a vineyard manager to mitigate a little bit of smoke taint. So there's some research and development in sprays that are happening right now. They're testing maybe some bentonite, some clay to cover the grapes to prevent them from absorbing. Or I think there's other sugar compounds. I think there's some cellulose-based product that will do the same. It's really to block the absorption of smoke. But other than that, in the vineyard, there's not much to do. As a winemaker, I can always harvest early because if there's less exposure to smoke, there's less accumulation, so your wine is going to taste less like smoke. I can modify my winemaking techniques. So most of the smoke will accumulate in the skin of the grapes. So let's say if I harvest red grapes and I make rosé instead of red wine, I'm going to end up with a bit less smoked effect because I will press the grapes, get the clear juice, and then get rid of the skins that contain most of the smoke compounds. So that will help a little bit. But still, then I'm still gonna have a little bit of smoke effect in my wine, and then I can treat them. So there's some filters that I can use to remove most or most of the smoke compounds, but it does affect the quality of the wine. So forest fires are not good news for viticulture. Also floods. For me, in Okanagan Falls, I'm pretty lucky because I'm pretty high up, and our soil is really not. Uh, is really permeable, so the water drains quite a bit. But the guys I know in the Fraser Valley, I think it was it 2021, and this year they had the atmospheric river that came in and brings in a huge amount of water, which is definitely caused by climate change. There's not a lot we can do about that, so it's really, as I write here, it's a risk assessment. So it's gonna with climate change, we're gonna have to rethink maybe where we plant vineyards, where we plant crop, and try to see the patterns of destruction that climate change brings with us. So it's another thing to consider that didn't seem to be there in the past. And as you guys know, extreme cold event. Um, it's been tough for many people working in the wine industry in the last couple of years. The first cold event in 2022, December 2022, reduced the crop in some of the vineyards, and some of the vineyards were hit a little bit more. I'm thinking about vineyards on Black Sage or in Coston, where some vineyards already lost most of their vines. But then in 2024, In January, we got a really cold snap coming in from the north. So in my vineyard, we got down to -27. And at that temperature, the vines are not, most of the Vitis vinifera, the type of vine that we have in the valley here, are really not resistant to that kind of cold. So in a vine, the first thing that's going to die from cold is the buds, is the shoot that's going to carry the grapes for the next season. So once these buds are dead, you might not have growth at all, or you might have growth from the base of the vines or from the root system if you're lucky. And for me, that's what happened. So I had pretty much 100% bud mortality. So the top growth, so in the middle pictures, that's my vineyard in 2024. Yeah, in the summer of 2024. So I had total, loss on the top growth, but my vine survived because I had a good root system. My soil was pretty rich, so I kind of protected the bottom of the vines a little bit, and my vines were able to come back. But some of the vineyard, they were not in a good position, and they had to really tear down their vineyard and replant the whole vineyard completely. Um, so I'm gonna just show you here a little bit of the see a little bit of the tonnage. So just to show you a little bit, kind of the result of me working on my soil and sometimes the result of climate change. So when you start to look at 2014, so I harvested 66 tons in my vineyard. And then that's the year that I really started like working on my soil. So you can see a slow progression going up on my tonnage. 2016, you see the big peak. Some seasons are great like that. So when we tend to have a really warm spring and lots of rain in the spring and beginning of summer, the growth in the vines is very, very big. And then we get big clusters, big berries, and it can lead to a bumper crop. So bumper crops are something that we usually enjoy because we don't have always a good season. But you can see, other than that, on that bumper crop, 2017, 2018, kind of a natural progression up and then slowly going down. So 2019, 20 was a bit a bit warmer temperature affecting a little bit fruit set. And then 2021, so I stepped down from the heat dome. So I didn't lose too much crop, but some of my crop was stressed out, especially my younger vines. So it did affect my yield. And then bounce back in 2022, another year where we got early bud break and lots of rain in the spring. So the vines were very happy and growing really big. To then 2023 with my crop going way back down. So 2023 was the effect of the cold snap we had in December 2022. So I think I had about 60% crop. So my Merlot was really affected. I only harvested 15% of my Merlot. But some other varietals were doing okay. And then came in at 2024 where I had, total damage on my buds, so zero crop. But despite having zero crop in 2024, my vineyard bounced back really, really well in 2025, uh, mainly due to a really healthy root system and bottom of the vine. So I think the work that I did since 2014, it really helped to my vineyard to bounce back. And then I'm going to show you. So the two pictures. So in June 16, 2024, you can see, yeah, that most of my vines just came back from the bottom. So I had damage on top, but already from, in August 25, you can see same location in the vineyard that the vigor was coming back and I was able to kind of retrain a full canopy already. So I was really amazed by the bounce back of my vineyard and I was really realizing that uh, it really pays off to work on your soil and make your vine healthy. But more than making your vine healthy, it actually really helps to make a great quality wine. So through time, I was able to get really great awards from my wines, which makes me really happy because my goal is to make good wine to make people happy. So I think working on my soils really helps me to achieve that. In conclusion, so like for me, investing in my soil, it led to really specific gain. So since I would say not even the beginning, but since in the last only 5 years, I was able to reduce my water use by 15%. So my goal for the next 5 years is to drop it by another 15%. So still working on my soil to enrich my soil so that I can reduce the amount of water that I use. Because for me, I think water use in the future is going to be one of the more difficult thing to get. I think fresh water will be very more scarce and it's going to be precious. And maybe we're going to get to a point where I will choose to, feed people with water rather than watering my vines. So we will see where the future lead us. But I was also able to reduce my fertilizer output by 20%, which is great. My goal is to go another at least 15% in the next 5 years. And as you saw, overall, I was able to increase my yield, my wine quality, and really laying the foundation for a resilient vineyard for, prosperous, prosperous future. So that's the end of my presentation. So I will stop sharing my screen and I will open for questions.
Well, thank you, Benoit. I've been monitoring the questions that people have. We don't have any specific question on soil, so I'll ask one, and that is, using a cover crop, is there also a benefit? Are you encouraging perhaps beneficial insects that might be attacking from a bare soil, perhaps?
Yeah, one
Does
of the side benefits is most of the cover crop do flower, and flower brings in beneficial. So I do have some butterflies, beneficial bees, wasps, pollinators, and predators too. So some of the pests that I have in the vineyard can be mitigated a little bit with having some beneficials in the vineyard. So that's one of the big thing that I like. Even I would say mowing my vineyard. It gets pretty messy in the summertime because I really let the mowing go until my natural weeds in tractor row flower, and then create a bit more organic material and weight, and then I go and mow. So yes, there's definitely many benefits to having a cover crop.
Someone is asking about viticulturalists sharing their knowledge. I mean, the things you've learned in the past 10 years. I know you're part of the BC Sustainable Wine program as well. Is there training or is there some platform for sharing the things you've learned with other people growing in the area? And also, I guess, are vineyards getting any support from the research, in colleges and universities? Someone's asked a question about whether there's any, provincial or federal support for the kind of innovative wine growing that we hope is going to continue in the Okanagan.
Yeah, lucky enough, we have lots of organization within the wine industry. So there's a BC Grape Grower Association. There's a BC Wine Growing Council, and like the Wine Growing Council has a mandate to really bring in research and development in both vineyards and the winery. And there's good partnership. There's the Summerland Research Station that does lots of research in agriculture in general, but they're really specific. So they have a specific branch and arm about viticulture. So as viticulturists, I can suggest some type of research that I would like them to conduct. So if I want to learn more about cover crop, they can do trials and see, let's say, if some type of cover crop, let's say they've done some about, just overall nutrition in the vineyard. They've done some about cutworm, so a pest in the vineyard. So is there a cover crop under your vine that will repel the pests so that you don't need to spray any pesticides to kill them? So there's lots of actually information available for us, but also the industry is really keen on doing more research and sharing that with everybody. So we have lots of resources that we can use to share and to learn within the industry. So that's very good.
Good. Somebody's asking whether you have to replant your cover crop each year. Do you mow it down, or do you just let things come back up? And I happen to know that the person that's asking the question,
Yeah.
she works with Okanagan Similkameen Stewardship, so they they work with agricultural properties to help them understand how they can be sympathetic with the biodiversity of the area. So I think
Yeah.
partly that might be part of her question.
Yeah.
Can I say
Well,
something? Benoit,
it's
your
good.
camera doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, okay. I might just try to,
Yeah, I think that might help.
let's see if I just restart it or, uh, apologize. It just, I guess, stopped working. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll just give you the question again, and that is, do you replant your cover crop each year and mow it down, or does it come back on its own?
Actually, yeah. So when I started my cover crop in 2021, my goal was to let the cover crop flower, so not touching it, and for it to go to flower and seeds, and then kind of just reseed itself, so that it would be kind of a sustainable cycle that I need less input. Unfortunately, when I planted the cover crop in 2021, we got the heat dome, so my cover crop didn't do so well. So I had to reseed it in 2022, and then 2022 was a much better growing season. So I had a pretty wet and cooler spring. So the cover crop did really, really well and was able to reseed itself. But also, what I realized is the natural weeds growing in the vineyard were a little bit dominating the cover crop that I planted. So after a while, I just decided to let Mother Nature take its course and just let the natural weeds growing on the vines grow. And then right now, also, I'm kind of changing my mentality in terms of weed management. Instead of using the grapple to really cut, the cover crops roots and turning it around, I want to adopt kind of a no-till system. So basically, instead of turning my soil around, there's some benefits in not touching your soil around at all. It really helps the microbiology. So now what I want to do is just at the end of the season, just do a undervine mowing. So keeping the cover crop there all season, unless it's too tall, but just mowing it down to benefit my soil.
Great, thank you. Now, there's been quite a bit in the news lately about agrivoltaics, about a vineyard that is putting in quite a bit of solar panels to, I guess, help with some of their energy needs, but also hopefully it may not interfere. It may help the vines growing as well. Do you have any comments on what you think of the future of agrivoltaics in the Okanagan? I know it's kind of out of left field a bit, but if you want to comment on it.
No, I think it's not in the left field. It's gonna be very relevant soon, as we see it in California, like in terms of quality, winemaking in viticulture. California is getting really, really hot, and they already started try to cool down their vineyards. So they did some tests with netting, like white nets, to actually shade the grapes, shade the canopy, to cool down the canopy. So actually installing the solar panels on top of the vineyard is really helping in terms of shading the vineyard, so cooling down the vineyard and making electricity. So on the long term, it's either you decide to adapt or maybe not to do it at all. So I think this is a good adaptation that it kind of needs to be done more in California right now because of the climate, but in the future, as we decide to continue viticulture here, we will have to adapt it that way. So I think it's it's coming more and more relevant in here for us.
Thank you. Someone's asking about pulse irrigation. Have you tried pulse irrigation to avoid stress? And maybe you could explain to those of us that don't know what it is, what that involves.
Good question. I don't know the term pulse irrigation. It might be related to I have drip irrigation, but in terms of pulse, I'm not sure the terminology.
Yeah, can I just
Yeah,
modify,
Go
expand
ahead,
that a little
Jerry.
bit? Yeah, I did pulse irrigation on sweet cherries. And what we did is I saw your interval of irrigation was at 1 or 2 days there on your soil.
yeah,
I couldn't, that one graph. What
yeah,
we did is we took and watered. Instead of doing it every day, we took the amount of water and divided up and did it every 4 hours because we had a computer that could control that. And that really seemed to help because on very coarse textured soils, it seemed to
Mhm.
hold the water up in the zone. And we ended up using the same amount of water, but just pulsed it multiple times in a single day. And that really seemed to help with the water stress. Although during the heat, that heat dome, uh, I think there's a limitation. You can't do it, get the irrigation to work because it just can't get to the leaves fast enough. I had raspberries during that heat dome, and I scorched all the leaves, even though I had drip irrigation. And I thought, well, geez, I'm doing it every day, and it should help. And that was on the Penticton Silt Loam on the West Bench, right? But I just wondered if you'd thought about really giving a frequent irrigation because of course soil, especially if you put the compost in, is going to hold it a little better, but right in the root zone.
Yeah, well, I that's one of the reason I wanted to put the moisture probes in the soil is really to understand the behavior of my moisture in the soil. And in the past, I would actually water a little bit more frequently. So my vineyard, I would water every day before to maintain, to prevent water stress on my vines because of my soil. But with time, I actually started delaying a little bit. So, watering every 2 days a little bit more and every 3 days, just because of my vines are pretty old and my root system is a little bit more down. So in terms of the water efficiency, I was just trying to pinpoint, what cycle should I use and how long should I water my vines for it to be the most efficient possible. So I did find out that for young vineyards you need to water them quite a bit because the root system is really shallow. But as the vine grows older, actually the root system is much more down, so it benefits sometimes a little bit more to water a little bit longer, so that you get more towards the root system rather than just on top. Because one of the downside of irrigating often a little bit is that you get more evaporation from the topsoil, and then you might end up at the end having to irrigate a little bit more.
Have you tried mulching to kind of prevent the evaporation from the surface? I know mulches can be, or a compost can be used as a bit of a mulch too, and sometimes that gives a surface where it seals it in a little better.
Yeah. So I never spread mulch itself. I only spread compost so far, but with my tractor I do have a mulcher, so I do mulch my canes when I do the pruning and my weeds that are growing in the vineyards in the tractor row and under the vines. Right now I'm not gonna go and just do some mowing. So basically try to add some organic matter, but not to the layer of let's say mulching. But some other vineyards have done lots of trials with either mulch, hay, or other substances to really do two things. One is deal with weeds so that weeds are not growing, and really retaining the moisture. So yes, it can be done, and it is beneficial.
Yeah, I think that the very, very young vines are very, very sensitive to competition. So the cover crops sometimes they inhibit the growth of the newly planted vines. That's the experience we've had with not only that, but with trees and everything. But anyway, that's something we observe with the cover crop. One of the downsides to cover cropping.
Yeah, so that's true. So for the first 3 years on your vines, you try to have minimal competition on weeds and minimal water stress too, so that your root system is not damaged by drought. So you have to take care of your vines a lot more when they're young, but when they're old, they get a lot more resilient.
I think for the last question, we'll let you kind of answer a philosophical question about the future of vineyards and wines in the Okanagan. Are there certain crops pardon me, are there certain varieties of grapes that you feel are going to end up predominating and being more successful in being able to withstand the sort of highs and lows of temperature in climate change here?
Yeah, I know there's lots of discussion has been it's been, it's been done lately because of the big frost that we had and lots of the vineyard had to be replanted. So lots of discussion were about, okay, can we replant hybrids vines that are a lot more tolerant to cold, or some of them maybe to drought with different root systems? It's a difficult question because it really depends on where you are, where the business is all about. And I think in terms of adaptation, the vineyards will, with time, have to maybe change varietals on, where your vines are grown, or to the point where, is wine, will wine become a luxury that will not be necessary in the future? Because when you think about it, like it's a bit scary, like the amount of water that I use in my vineyard. So if I do, I have right now just shy of let's say 50,000 vines. So a normal irrigation cycle, like I'm gonna give them maybe 8 liters of water, maybe every couple days in the summertime when it's really hot. So 8 liters times 50,000. And that's a whole lot of water, over 200,000 liters of water every couple of days. That could feed a lot of family, provide water to a lot of families. So if we do get scarce in water, and California, they're already reaching that point, is they have to think about some alternative. Either is it really the right crop to grow there, or do we move on to something else? So lots to think about, but for the time being, I'm focusing on making good wine and making people happy.
And it is making us very happy. So thank you very much for this very thoughtful and very informative talk. Um, I think we can all also think about our own gardens and our own yards in some of the things you talked about with cover crops and soil health. So I do appreciate that. I'm going to pass things on to Sue to finish up the evening and talking a little bit about our activities at First Things First.
Well, thank you very much. So.
Yeah, thank you, Benoit. That was great. That was very interesting. The only activity or event that we have coming up that I have on my list is our next deep dive, which is going to be February 19th. Again, same time, 7 o'clock, and it will be on EVs. We have Plug and Drive is going to be speaking, and they'll be talking about or answering every question that people have about electric vehicles. And Lori will be sending out a recording of tonight's session along with links to our website and that, so you can sign up for that deep dive or sign up for our newsletter. Lori, are there any other events that you know that are coming up?
Well, we will be having our Views and Tales, which will be in February, I think the 24th. And it's going to be a book this time. And then in March, because of World Water Day on March 22nd, we are organizing a lot of different events about water for a week and a half from March 14th or 15th all the way through to March 24th. And so, keep your eyes open for some exciting things happening. And things are actually happening all up and down the Okanagan Valley and around BC. So it's quite an exciting time because our mountains are dry and water is such an important, it's so important to us. We all need water. I think that's it. Thank you so much, Benoit.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good evening.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Merci, au revoir.
Merci beaucoup à toi.